Welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. Are you doing the best for your client to help them create their legacy? Are you creating a plan that goes far beyond finances to help people ensure that it becomes the driving force behind all decisions? On this podcast, hosts Beth Hand and Stan Miller will help you with growing your practice and your client's peace of mind. Together, they bring the best and brightest minds to share with you how to help your clients develop their best legacy. And now, here are your hosts, Beth and Stan.
Welcome back to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Beth Hand. My guest today is a nationally recognized estate planning attorney, the founder of St. George Estate Planning, one of the founding members of Wealth Counsel, an author, and a legacy leader, Lawrence Brock. Larry, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. I appreciate the privilege of being here with you.
Absolutely. So before I dive in with questions about your practice, I would love it if you would take just a few minutes to tell our listeners a little bit about your backstory. What is it that inspired you to become an attorney? And then from that, what inspired you to get into estate planning in particular?
The detail of my backstory is in a book I recently wrote, What Floats Your Boat? I'm not going to go into that in detail now, but I decided that I wanted to be an attorney when I was in high school. And I worked towards that all through college. Literally the week before I graduated from high school, I started working in the legal profession with the largest law newspaper in the country. It circulated to attorneys in all of Southern California and across California. And I stayed with them from the day I started college until the day I started practicing law. For 8 or 9 years, I spent 3 to 4 days a week in the probate court in Los Angeles County and 3 to 5 bar association meetings in Los Angeles County. And every probate or estate planning bar association meeting there was, I attended. And after listening to all of that, I thought probate and estate planning is some of the most boring stuff in the world. And I was committed to, as soon as I graduated, passed the bar, I was offered an opportunity to stay with the Daily Journal. I said, I need to go practice law. And I did litigation for about 15 years and then slowly got back to estate planning because it was an opportunity that presented itself. And in a short period of time, I found that it wasn't boring. It was very interesting because the people are interesting and you're really doing something to help people. And when it was very interesting, an experience where I knew I had come and I found where I should be was when I helped a young mother who had 2 children, one on the way, and her husband died suddenly in a car accident. And they were in the process of buying a new house and selling houses. And how do we get through all of this probate? And it was very satisfying to help her. And one of the things that she told me in the end, as she told me her story, how she worked to get through everything up to that point. When she was younger, she said she used to go to some of the pool halls in Southern California and she'd shoot pool with the guys and just beat them. And then she'd smile and say, and I was blind. I only had a little bit of vision out of my side of my eye. And I knew that I'm helping real people.
Right.
And that said, okay, I'm where I need to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think also being part of the estate planning world, people outside of this area of law don't realize how emotional it is and that there really is such an opportunity for connection with people and such an opportunity to be able to really help people, and certainly much more so than a lot more fun, fuzzy stories than in litigation law, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. And I'm sorry, but on a practical note, between litigation and estate planning and being a lawyer and having a family of 8 kids, on a practical note, estate planning and administration, you always get paid.
Right.
Litigation, you don't always get paid.
Right. That's true. Yes. And when you've got kids to feed, you believe me, I know it's nice to be able to have a little more reliable source of income. So that's great. You also, to take kind of a turn off of that, you also have written a book and it's available on Amazon. You can get the paperback version or download the Kindle version. But the book is called Estate Planning for Beginners. The title doesn't leave a lot of mystery, but tell our listeners what inspired you to write the book and what can they really expect from that?
It's one of 3 books I've written on estate planning. It's the second book, but it is basic. This is what estate planning is and why you need it. The different estate planning tools. It's not just a will. It's not just avoiding probate. It's not just how do you get through probate. And some of the points of estate planning that I call hidden waterfalls that people don't understand. They don't know they're there. And you need a knowledgeable, experienced estate planning guide to help you chart this trip down. I live in St. George, very close to the Colorado River, the Grand Canyon, and that's full of essentially rapids and waterfalls. You need a guide to get you through it. And the estate planning is the same way. Some things can be simple, but not anymore. I looked at the estate planning in the 1970s with the attorneys I knew and what they did. And the society is so much different today that you need that. And that's what I tried to make in simple form in that book. The third book is titled 21st Century Estate Planning. And again, it's available and it goes into it in a little more depth and from a different angle.
No, that makes sense. And you also have an ebook that's downloadable from your website, and we'll link that for our listeners that are interested. But it's called Internet Estate Planning, the Key to Peace of Mind in the Online World. So I definitely want to talk about your expertise in this area because I feel like this idea of the easy internet estate plan has really blown up over the last few years. And I know on one hand, that's exciting. There are people out there getting plans made that otherwise would have nothing. But on the other hand, we have clients coming through our law firm that have made a will online or they've created this online estate plan. And then when something happens, it doesn't at all work the way, and they thought they were covered. And now they're with us trying to get this fixed. So talk to us a little bit about internet estate planning and the do's and the don'ts and how it's such a different world than it was 5 or 10 years ago.
Well, part of it comes from the idea is enhanced by a friend of mine who probably 15 to 18 years ago, his baby was born. She had a heart problem, serious heart problem. And they went to specialists and a number of specialists, and the doctor said, we're going to do this type of surgery. And he described it. My friend was a computer geek, and he went to the internet and he researched it. And he came back with a lot of information and a lot of questions. He asked his doctor, you want to do procedure A? And the doctor said, yes. He says, why don't you want to do procedure B? And the doctor said, well, procedure B might be better, but we can't do procedure B because we at this particular children's hospital in Southern California, which is, by the way, was one of the largest children's hospitals in Southern California, we don't have the equipment. My friend said, who has the equipment? And they said, we can go to UCLA and they have the equipment. They went to UCLA. That little girl was told that she would never run and walk and play. She just finished her first softball game. as a high school student. With the internet today, you can get a lot of information. And there's a lot of people that want to know as much as they can. Well, you get the information, but if you don't have the experience and the expertise to know how to use it, it's not going to be as valuable to you. And it may be detrimental. So many of the plans I worked on in the administration side, where they had a plan, but it was outdated, or it was poorly written, or any number of problems, situations where it just could have been a whole lot better. They were very expensive to administer because of the problems and the animosity, the fighting, because it was brother against brother. And the type of fighting is so bizarre. They're either fighting over who's in charge or who gets the pile of plumbing pipe, 1-inch galvanized plumbing pipe that was filled a garage. Well, there was an old 1960 car underneath the pipe, and the pipe filled the garage. And that was the last issue in this particular trust administration. And we had to fight it because the plan was poorly drafted. And during the part of that administration in settlement, everybody left the courtroom. And when I got outside, the bailiffs were trying to break up the fight. So you can do some research, but you have to have somebody who knows the path, knows the river you're going down. Because when you hit that, you go down the river, you're going to eventually hit a lake. And I call it, I grew up in Southern California, and I took many tours to the La Brea tar pits. It's like getting sucked into the tar pits. My job in administration is pulling you out and helping you walk to a new normal and helping you scrape that tar off. So because of that administration, I look at planning differently than the average who graduated from law school and started planning.
Yeah, I love kind of the picture that you've created, that estate planning attorneys are really like a guide through the wilderness. You know where these traps are, you know where the dangerous rock falls are, you know where the tar pits are. And there are so many legal solutions, Larry, that exist out there that the average person doesn't know about, that some of these very simple, and I'm not down talking just building a trust completely online, but there are a lot of times that if you do just kind of this AI version of a plan, there's not an opportunity for a lot of these tools and strategies that an actual attorney, if you're working with them, whether online or in person, would be able to say, hey, this would be a great solution to your family. And when you mentioned the galvanized pipe, that made me laugh, because we always tell our clients that the things that break up families that we've seen over and over and over, it's never a huge piece of land. It's never a mansion. It's never a whole bunch of money. Typically, the things that cause the most fighting and torn relationships and family drama and chaos, it's simple things. It's galvanized pipes. It's grandmother's teacups. A lot of times it's stuff that really doesn't have big monetary value. It's more the sentimental things that people end up fighting over. And if you do a good job of working with someone and creating a solid estate plan and having these conversations early, you can avoid a lot of that conflict, so that after you're gone, your family doesn't spend all day in court and have to call in a backup bailiff, and you can avoid a lot of drama, certainly. So I love the picture that you've painted for everybody. I do have just a couple of other questions before we run out of time here in a minute. And so one of those is, you're also a Legacy Leader member. And so what is your experience? Why do you feel like it's important to do more than just paperwork? What is it that really makes you want to connect with your clients? Why do you think that this idea of teaching them how to leave a legacy is important.
There's a comment that it's in many societies and cultures across the world. And one of the phrases is shirt sleeve to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Another is rice paddy to rice paddy in 3 generations. I'm going to change it to rags to riches to rags in 4 generations. The first person builds, the second one buys, the third one spends, and the fourth one begs. And that's 4 generations. And it's because the third and fourth generation, they don't know what it took to build it, to get it together. And when I say they don't know what it took, they don't know the stories of what Grandpa did to build that. The story that says that Grandpa, I'm trying to think of some of them, you just know that this family together did everything possible. I read my mother's journal the other day, a portion of it. And when I read what she said she did, and I look back at my life and understand why she did some of what she did. And she was never there for us, but she was there for us. And because of her journal, I know how hard it was for her. She lived a double life, basically. And she was asked to do things for the government and the safety of our country that were just unbelievable. And because I now can read that, I learned what she did, but not the depth of how hard it is. And my children have read her story, and they've talked about it in their schools. And I think one of my grandchildren, or heard some of her grandchildren have used it, and that makes a difference in their lives. Well, the difference is they are better. They're morally better, spiritually better, socially better. Education is more important to them, and all of that. And it's not just money. It's not just money. It's every aspect of your life. When you know the stories of those who have gone before you. And as an estate planning, I'm working with those who are before others. And if I can encourage them to leave more of their story, I will have done something that is truly lasting. The money can be gone. And maybe it's not even a whole lot of money. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, to some, a inheritance of $40,000 is a lot of money. To some, it's nothing, but it is what you're receiving, and use it in honor of those who left it for you.
No, I love that. That's a beautiful story, and I couldn't agree with that sentiment more. We've seen how detrimental wealth without stories, without work ethic, without that history can be on younger generations. Grandfather, those first shirt sleeves, those generations, when they build the company or build the wealth and then pass that down, those younger generations have no connection to that history. And, they may spend their days on a beach drinking a margarita somewhere and not making the world a better place, which is certainly not what those older generations have envisioned. And so I love the work that you do and really trying to do a good job of helping families, helping generations connect and just really leave more than money, but a true legacy of all of this, the history and the stories, and create plans that are never cookie cutter, that really work for people. Thank you very much for the work that you do. You touched on this a little bit, but my last question for you, and this is the big one, the thinking question. Through the work that you do, obviously, you've had a huge impact on the estate planning world and on your clients, obviously. The family that you've built, you have a beautiful family and a bunch of kids, just like me. And then through the life that you lead, through all of those things, what is it you hope your legacy will be? It's a big question.
Oh, wow. Jeepers. I hope that Aiden, who is my soon-to-be 20-year-old grandson, who never knew his father. His father was killed 5 months before he was born. I would hope that Aiden would recognize that and feel a closeness to everybody in the family, and that will take all of his aunts and uncles and his cousins, all of whom are geographically distanced, somehow to connect, and that all the other grandchildren connect, and they have the moral fiber to do what is right, to define that for themselves personally and do it. I've heard be a doer of goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great legacy. Certainly one that you're setting an example for, through the family you've built, through the work that you do. But I think creating that legacy of being a doer is really important, and will hopefully you're raising up some generations, some children and grandchildren that will have a really positive impact on the world because of the things that you have done and the example that you have set for them. All right, that's the last tough question I will ask you. And so for our listeners, this has been the Legacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Katie Beth Hand. And my guest today was E. Lawrence Brock. And to connect with Larry, you can find him on LinkedIn. You can find him at stgesstateplanning.com, or you're welcome to email him directly to get connected at elb@stgesstateplanning.com, and we'll put that for you in the show notes. You can also download his books on Amazon, and be sure to check out his website for one of his free ebooks. Larry, this was awesome, and as always, a lot of fun. So thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller. For more information on them and the show, please visit pinnaclelegacylaw.com. If you like what you've learned today, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.